What if the path to finding yourself leads you further away from who you thought you should be? Is it possible that the more you explore your inner world, the more lost and anxious you become, trapped in a labyrinth of existential dread? Understanding the potential pitfalls of self-discovery is essential because blindly pursuing it can lead to disillusionment, inauthenticity, and a profound sense of meaninglessness, a sickness unto death. Søren Kierkegaard, the 19th century Danish philosopher often hailed as the father of existentialism, offers a unique lens through which to examine this paradox. He didn't view self-discovery as a guaranteed path to happiness and fulfillment, but rather as a challenging and often painful confrontation with our deepest fears and anxieties. Kierkegaard understood that confronting your true self can be a destabilizing process, yet a necessary step toward authenticity. His work suggests that the journey inward can be terrifying, filled with despair and angst, but it is also the only way to become who you truly are. It is a journey marked by a constant, cyclical struggle between despair and a fragile, hard-won faith. Kierkegaard argued that despair is intrinsic to the human condition, arising from the inherent gap between our finite selves and our infinite desires, between who we are and who we aspire to be. This despair isn't a one-time event to be overcome, but a recurring pattern, a constant oscillation between the depths of anguish and fleeting moments of clarity and hope. Faith, for Kierkegaard, isn't necessarily religious belief, but a means of navigating this cycle, a way of embracing the uncertainty and absurdity of existence. This faith provides a framework for living amidst the chaos and contradictions of the self. Kierkegaard's own life profoundly shaped his philosophical outlook. His broken engagement with Regine Olsen, the woman he deeply loved, left an indelible mark on his soul. This deeply personal crisis informed his views on the conflict between societal expectations and individual authenticity, the tension between duty and desire. He felt the burden of societal norms and expectations, yet knew that in order to be true to himself, he had to walk a lonely path away from the crowd. This personal experience fueled his exploration of existential angst and the subjective nature of truth. He understood that genuine self-discovery often demands a radical departure from conventional paths. Many self-help resources offer simplistic solutions and gloss over the difficult aspects of self-discovery, creating unrealistic expectations and leaving people feeling lost and betrayed when they inevitably encounter setbacks. Kierkegaard's perspective offers a more realistic and empowering framework for personal growth, allowing you to anticipate and manage the challenges that arise on the path to authenticity. Understanding these potential downsides is crucial for navigating life's challenges and achieving genuine fulfillment, as it prepares you to deal with the inevitable darkness that lies within. Ignoring the terrible truth of self-discovery can have devastating consequences. It can lead to a superficial existence, where you are merely playing a role dictated by societal expectations or the desires of others. As Kierkegaard articulated in The Sickness Unto Death, this inauthenticity can ultimately lead to a profound sense of meaninglessness and despair, a spiritual malaise from which one may never recover. It can result in a life lived on the surface, devoid of genuine connection, purpose, and joy. Embracing Kierkegaard's philosophy, however, can be a path to overcoming despair and achieving a profound sense of purpose and self-understanding. It is a transformative understanding that can empower you to confront your fears, embrace uncertainty, and live a more authentic life aligned with your deepest values. It requires grappling with the terrible truth of self-discovery. That the journey inward can be painful and destabilizing, but it is also the only path to true freedom and fulfillment. It is a difficult but ultimately rewarding task. This video will explore key themes that Kierkegaard touches on, such as existential angst, the struggle between authenticity and inauthenticity, and the leap of faith, and the subjective nature of truth. Existential angst, in this context, refers to the anxiety that arises from our awareness of freedom and responsibility, the realization that we are the authors of our own lives and that our choices have far-reaching consequences. Authenticity, then, is the ongoing effort to align our actions with our values, to live in accordance with our true selves, despite the pressures to conform. And the leap of faith suggests that overcoming despair requires embracing uncertainty and committing to a path without guarantees, trusting in something beyond ourselves, even when faced with doubt and uncertainty. The goal is not happiness, but faith in the face of suffering. Kierkegaard's major works, such as Fear and Trembling and The Sickness unto Death, are seminal texts in existential philosophy, exploring themes of faith, anxiety, and the human condition. Fear and Trembling delves into the nature of faith through the story of Abraham and Isaac, challenging conventional notions of morality and duty. The Sickness unto Death explores the concept of despair as a spiritual illness, arguing that it arises from a disconnection from one's true self and from God. Understanding these works is crucial for grasping Kierkegaard's perspective on self-discovery. A central element of Kierkegaard's philosophy is the concept of dread, or anxiety. Dread, in Kierkegaard's view, is not simply fear of something specific, but a more profound sense of unease that arises from our awareness of infinite possibilities. It is the feeling that anything is possible, that we are free to choose our own path, but also burdened by the responsibility of that choice. Kierkegaard famously described dread as the dizziness of freedom. It is the awareness that the future is open and that we are responsible for shaping it, creating both opportunity and a source of deep anxiety. As we move forward, we will discuss several narrative threads, including the cyclical relationship between despair and faith, the ongoing struggle for authenticity against societal pressures, and the critical importance of subjective experience in defining truth. These are the key elements we will use to guide our understanding. We will also touch upon the pattern of societal pressures influencing an individual's journey of self-discovery, often pushing them away from their true selves, setting the stage for future exploration. It will be a journey that asks the question, can one truly be free in society? What if achieving all of your goals leaves you feeling empty and unfulfilled? What if you discover aspects of yourself that are deeply troubling, perhaps even malevolent? Or what if the authentic self you seek to uncover is someone you actively dislike? These challenging questions are designed to create immediate cognitive dissonance, forcing you to confront the uncomfortable realities of self-discovery. Self-discovery can indeed lead to confusion, despair, and a loss of direction. Hint that future portions of the video will guide the audience through these periods of crisis and show them effective methods for moving forward. Have you ever felt a sense of disillusionment after achieving a long-sought goal, or perhaps found yourself backsliding into old habits despite your best efforts? These experiences are not unique, but are part of a shared human experience. Stay tuned to learn how to confront existential angst, embrace uncertainty, and live a more authentic life, not just diagnosing the problem, but offering potential solutions using Kierkegaard's profound insights. Despair, for Kierkegaard, is not merely a fleeting emotion, but a profound spiritual sickness, a sickness unto death, arising from a fundamental disharmony within the self. This disharmony stems from our inability to reconcile our finite existence with our infinite desires. Imagine a violin string stretched too tight, vibrating wildly, threatening to snap. This, in essence, is the state of despair. Kierkegaard distinguishes between two primary forms of this affliction, despair of finitude and despair of infinitude. The despair of finitude manifests as being overly grounded in the material world, clinging to the tangible and neglecting the spiritual or emotional dimensions of life. Picture someone solely fixated on career advancement, amassing wealth, or accumulating possessions, while their personal relationships wither, their passions fade, and their inner life remains barren. They are suffocating under the weight of the finite. Conversely, the despair of infinitude arises from being lost in a realm of abstract possibilities, consumed by daydreams and fantasies, yet unable to translate those visions into concrete action. Consider the individual perpetually lost in grand schemes and intellectual pursuits, spinning elaborate theories, yet paralyzed by indecision and incapable of committing to a single path. This person floats aimlessly, untethered from reality, adrift in a sea of infinite potential, yet achieving nothing. This inherent tension between our limitations and aspirations creates a constant state of unease, a subtle undercurrent of dissatisfaction that permeates our being. The desire for perfect love, limitless success, or ultimate knowledge constantly clashes with the reality of human imperfection, mortality, and the constraints of our circumstances. It's the engine of inner turmoil, the source of our existential angst. Despair, however, isn't simply a negative state to be avoided at all costs. Kierkegaard argues that it is a necessary stage in the journey of self-discovery, a crucible in which our authentic self is forged. Facing this despair, staring into the abyss of our own limitations, allows us to confront the illusions we hold about ourselves and the world. Someone facing a midlife crisis, feeling lost and disillusioned with their career, marriage, or lifestyle, can harness this despair as a catalyst for change. This moment of crisis can force a re-evaluation of values and priorities, leading to a more fulfilling and authentic existence aligned with their true selves. But how can one embrace such a painful state? Remember the pattern of despair and faith we discussed earlier. Despair is not the end, but a turning point, a descent into darkness that precedes a renewed sense of hope and purpose. Just as winter precedes spring, despair is a necessary prelude to a deeper, more meaningful understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. Recognizing that despair isn't a permanent condition is the first step towards navigating this challenging terrain. Building upon despair, Kierkegaard introduces the concept of dread, or angst, as the anxiety that arises from our awareness of freedom and possibility. Dread is not the same as fear. Fear has a specific object, a defined threat. A fear of heights, a fear of spiders, a fear of public speaking. Dread, however, is objectless, directed towards nothing in particular, a free-floating sense of unease. Think of the feeling of unease you might experience when standing on a high precipice. You might not be afraid of falling, but you are acutely aware of the possibility, the freedom to jump, the sheer openness of the future. This awareness, this dizziness of freedom, is dread. Freedom, often perceived as a gift, can become a burden, forcing us to confront the overwhelming responsibility for our choices. Every decision, every path taken, closes off countless other possibilities. This is why self-discovery can be so destabilizing. It reveals the vast range of possibilities available to us, forcing us to choose, to define ourselves in the face of infinite potential. The anxiety of choosing a career path, knowing that this decision will shape the course of your life, is a prime example. Societal pressures, the expectations of parents, the allure of prestige, the fear of failure only amplify this anxiety, making the burden of freedom even heavier. But dread, like despair, can be a catalyst for growth. It can prompt us to confront our fears, to examine our values, and to make conscious choices about how we want to live. Rather than succumbing to paralysis, we can harness the energy of dread to propel ourselves forward. Someone experiencing dread about their future might use that anxiety to motivate them to take action, setting goals, acquiring new skills, and pursuing their passions with renewed vigor. Instead of trying to eliminate dread, we can learn to accept it as a natural part of the human condition, a sign that we are alive, aware, and engaged with the possibilities of existence. Embracing dread is key to living authentically, because it forces us to confront the uncertainty and ambiguity of life, to make choices without guarantees, to create our own meaning in a world devoid of inherent purpose. It's a perspective shift that moves us from passively accepting fate to actively shaping our destiny. To further understand this journey, one must be willing to accept the importance of subjective experience. Kierkegaard offered a powerful critique of objective truth, arguing that truth is ultimately subjective and personal. He believed that the most important truths about ourselves and our existence cannot be accessed through detached observation or logical deduction, but only through personal experience, through passionate engagement with the world. The scientific method seeks objective truth, striving for universal principles that apply to all. Kierkegaard, however, argues that the truths that truly matter, the meaning of life, the nature of love, the essence of faith, can only be grasped through subjective experience, through the unique lens of individual perspective. Trying to live up to one's parents' expectations rather than pursuing one's own passions exemplifies sacrificing subjective truth for an external standard. True self-discovery requires embracing this subjectivity, rather than trying to conform to external standards or expectations. Societal pressures often obscure our subjective experience, urging us to adopt pre-packaged identities and follow prescribed paths. The danger of abstraction lies in how an excessive focus on abstract concepts and systems can lead to detachment from reality and a loss of self. Getting lost in philosophical debates without applying those ideas to your own life, or becoming overly focused on data and statistics without considering the human element, are common pitfalls. True understanding requires engaging with the world in a concrete, personal way, grounding our intellectual pursuits in the messy reality of lived experience. Consider a time when you prioritized objective facts over your own intuition or feelings, and what the consequences were. Embracing the subjective nature of your own experience is paramount. Ultimately, the journey through despair, dread, and the rejection of objectivity leads to the challenge of authenticity. Authenticity, in Kierkegaard's view, is not a destination to be reached, but a continuous process of self-becoming, of striving to align our actions with our values, of living in accordance with our true selves, rather than conforming to societal expectations or playing a predetermined role. Think of an artist who paints what they truly feel rather than what they think will sell, is living authentically. Yet, there are constant temptations to compromise, to cater to the market, to sell out. Authenticity demands constant vigilance, a relentless questioning of our motives, and a willingness to resist external pressures. Society exerts a constant pressure on us to conform through social norms, expectations, and the fear of rejection. We are bombarded with messages about how we should look, how we should behave, what we should value. This pressure can lead to inauthenticity, a sense of being alienated from our true selves, of living a life that is not our own. A young person who chooses to pursue their passion for art, despite the disapproval of their family and friends, exemplifies the struggle for individuality. Living authentically requires a constant struggle against these pressures, a willingness to stand apart from the crowd and to embrace one's own unique identity. By confronting our fears and anxieties, we can become more aware of our true desires and values, and make choices that are aligned with our authentic selves. Embracing these difficult emotions is essential for living a genuine life. This connection emphasizes that authenticity isn't about suppressing negative feelings, but about acknowledging and integrating them into our understanding of ourselves, ultimately leading to living a life aligned with our deepest values. How then can we navigate this complex terrain and move towards a more authentic existence? The journey toward authenticity, fraught with despair and dread, culminates in what Kierkegaard calls the leap of faith. This isn't a blind, irrational jump into the unknown, but a deliberate act of embracing uncertainty, a conscious commitment to a path without guarantees. It's about choosing to believe in something, be it a relationship, a career, a personal value, despite the absence of absolute proof or assurance of success. Consider committing to a relationship. There's no way to know if it will last, if your partner is truly the one, or if unforeseen circumstances will tear you apart. Yet you choose to invest your heart, your time, and your energy, trusting in the possibility of a shared future. That is the leap. This act of faith is a direct response to the despair that arises from our awareness of freedom and possibility. We are free to choose our own meaning, to create our own purpose, but this freedom can be paralyzing. The leap doesn't eliminate despair. It provides a framework for navigating it. It's not about escaping the void, but about finding a foothold within it. Picture facing the despair of a seemingly meaningless existence. Instead of succumbing to nihilism, you choose to dedicate yourself to a cause, to create art, to raise a family, to pursue knowledge. You know that your efforts may ultimately be futile, that death awaits us all, but you choose to act as if your life has meaning, to imbue it with purpose through faith, despite the inherent risk of failure. It's about betting on yourself, betting on life, even when the odds seem stacked against you. This does not necessarily have to be religious faith. It can be faith in humanity, faith in oneself. Crucially, this committal is deeply subjective. True faith requires embracing your individual perspective and committing to your values, even when faced with doubt or opposition. It's about aligning yourself with your inner compass, regardless of external validation. Consider choosing to follow your moral compass, even when it conflicts with prevailing norms or the opinions of your peers. You might face criticism, ridicule, or even ostracism, but you remain steadfast in your convictions, guided by your internal sense of right and wrong. This is a constant struggle against the pressures of conformity, a testament to the power of subjective truth. However, this path is not without its perils. There's an inherent risk involved, a constant tension that arises from the lack of guarantees. How do you prepare for the possibility of failure, of making the wrong choice, of wasting your life on a path that leads nowhere? This tension is palpable in Kierkegaard's own life, particularly in his relationship with Regine Olsen. His agonizing decision to break off their engagement, driven by his belief that he was not worthy of her and that marriage would hinder his philosophical pursuits, embodies the painful sacrifices that the leap of faith can demand. To better understand the nature of these sacrifices, Kierkegaard introduces the three stages of life: the aesthetic, the ethical, and the religious. These stages represent distinct ways of relating to oneself, to others, and to the world, each characterized by a different set of values and priorities. It's important to note that these aren't necessarily linear steps, and a person can move between stages throughout their life. Also, not everyone reaches the religious stage, nor is it necessarily superior to the others. The aesthetic stage is characterized by a pursuit of pleasure and immediate gratification. The aesthete seeks to maximize enjoyment and avoid boredom, flitting from one experience to another without any deep commitment. Imagine someone constantly seeking new experiences, always chasing the next thrill, but never finding lasting satisfaction. This might manifest as endless collecting of items, binge-watching TV shows, or serially dating without forming meaningful connections. The aesthete remains detached from deeper meaning, living on the surface of life, driven by fleeting desires. In contrast, the ethical stage involves a commitment to moral principles and social responsibility. The ethical individual embraces duty, adheres to rules, and strives to contribute to the well-being of others. Consider the individual who dedicates their life to public service, working tirelessly to improve their community, or someone who adheres to a strict moral code, always striving to do what is right, regardless of personal cost. The ethical stage provides a sense of purpose and belonging, but it can also lead to rigidity and a suppression of individual desires. The religious stage transcends both the aesthetic and the ethical, involving a personal relationship with the divine, characterized by faith, paradox, and a willingness to sacrifice one's own desires for a higher purpose. This stage demands a teleological suspension of the ethical, a willingness to act against conventional morality in obedience to a higher calling. Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac, as recounted in Fear and Trembling, exemplifies this radical faith. These stages are intrinsically linked to the pattern of self-discovery. Moving through them requires confronting despair, embracing freedom, and making conscious choices about how to live. However, Kierkegaard isn't necessarily advocating for the religious life as the ultimate goal. Rather, he emphasizes the importance of living a conscious, examined life, regardless of which stage one occupies. The true value lies in the active process of self-discovery, the continuous questioning and striving for authenticity. Yet, the pursuit of genuineness can come at a significant cost. Living in accordance with your true self may require challenging community standards and alienating yourself from others, leading to isolation and misunderstanding. Someone who speaks out against injustice, even when it makes them unpopular, or someone who pursues an unconventional lifestyle despite disapproval from their family and friends, may experience this isolation firsthand. This separation isn't a sign of failure, but a testament to the courage required to live authentically. Those who live genuinely are often misunderstood, their values and priorities seen as radically different from the mainstream. History is replete with misunderstood prophets, Jesus, Socrates, and countless others who were persecuted for their beliefs, their unconventional ways of thinking challenging the established order. This pattern highlights the inherent tension between individual truth and societal acceptance. Therefore, accepting this isolation is a necessary part of living genuinely, demonstrating a commitment to your values, even when faced with adversity. It means being okay with the fact that some people will never understand your choices, your passions, or your perspective. This acceptance is not resignation, but empowerment. It's about prioritizing personal integrity over social acceptance, knowing that true fulfillment comes from living in alignment with your authentic self, regardless of external validation. This journey demands continuous inner work and questioning as a means of staying true to oneself and avoiding complacency. It's about regularly examining your values, beliefs, and behaviors to ensure that they are aligned with your genuine self. Maintaining that alignment is not a one-time task, but a lifelong commitment. This constant questioning is crucial for resisting pressures and making conscious choices about how you want to live. Ask yourself whether you are pursuing a certain goal because you truly desire it or because you feel obligated to do so. Are you living a life that is truly yours, or are you simply playing a role assigned to you by others? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they are essential for maintaining autonomy and living a life of purpose. Beware of blindly accepting dogma or ideology. True understanding requires a constant willingness to question and challenge existing beliefs, regardless of their source. Accepting political or religious beliefs without critical examination can lead to intellectual stagnation and a loss of individual agency. Cultivate a spirit of intellectual humility, recognizing that your understanding is always incomplete and that there is always more to learn. In the next section, we'll delve into practical exercises for inner work, emphasizing that the terrible truth of self-discovery can be a catalyst for positive change. Keep a journal and ask yourself honest questions every day. Am I living a meaningful life? What are my goals? And am I happy? Remember the pattern of cyclical despair and dread. Self-discovery is an ongoing journey, not a destination. Acknowledge the potential for setbacks and relapses into old patterns, reinforcing the idea that the path toward enlightenment involves consistent iterations. The challenges may change over time, but the process of introspection, questioning, and faith remains constant. Yet, this understanding will often feel incomplete. Embrace uncertainty rather than seeking concrete answers, as the true value lies in the journey itself, not in reaching a fixed point. Understanding the practical implications of Kierkegaard's complex philosophical principles will allow you to navigate the inevitable moments of despair, strengthening your resolve to live a meaningful and genuine life. Now, to actively integrate Kierkegaard's wisdom into your daily life, consider these exercises for radical self-reflection, not just as abstract thought experiments, but as catalysts for tangible transformation. Start with guided introspection, dedicating specific time each week to journaling prompts centered on existential questions, the kind that keep you up at night. Ask yourself, what am I most afraid of? What gives my life meaning? Or if I could change one thing about the world, what would it be and why? Don't censor yourself. Allow your thoughts to flow freely onto the page. Another powerful technique involves thought experiments exploring your personal values, probing their depths. Imagine you have unlimited resources, but you can only dedicate yourself to one cause. What do you choose, and what does that reveal about your core beliefs? Engage in meditation techniques focusing on dread and anxiety, not to eliminate these feelings, but to observe them without judgment. Sit with your discomfort, acknowledging its presence without letting it consume you. These practices can be difficult to implement consistently. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to procrastinate, or to convince yourself that you don't have time. Life will invariably get in the way, disrupting even the best laid plans. The key is to start small, even if it's just 15 minutes a week, and gradually increase the frequency as you become more comfortable. Schedule dedicated reflection time in your calendar, treating it as an essential appointment that you cannot miss. Acknowledge and address emotional resistance, the feeling that the exercise is pointless or too painful. Remind yourself that growth often requires discomfort, that facing your fears is the only way to overcome them. Seek support from trusted sources, a therapist, a friend, or a mentor who can provide encouragement and guidance when you feel lost. Above all, cultivate honesty and vulnerability. Radical self-reflection demands a willingness to confront difficult truths about yourself, even the ones you'd rather ignore. If you're not willing to confront your own hypocrisy, your own flaws, your own capacity for both good and evil, you'll never truly understand yourself. Resist the inclination to self-censor during journaling or meditation, to edit your thoughts before they even reach the surface. Remember, no one else is going to see this. It is just for you. Society often discourages this type of deep self-reflection, preferring conformity and superficiality. There is an unspoken pressure to be happy, to be successful, to fit in. The stakes are high. Avoiding this inner work leads to a life of inauthenticity and quiet desperation. You'll never know what you truly want if you don't ask yourself the hard questions, challenging the status quo. The insights gained from radical self-reflection are not meant to remain confined to the pages of a journal or the silence of a meditation cushion. They are meant to be applied to your everyday reality, to inform your choices, your relationships, and your actions. For example, when you're feeling unfulfilled in your job, instead of just impulsively seeking a new one, pause and ask yourself, what am I truly seeking? Is it money, status, or something deeper? Is it a sense of purpose, a feeling of connection, or an opportunity to express my creativity? Similarly, in your friendships and romantic relationships, honestly assess whether your needs are being met. Are you giving and receiving support, love, and respect? Are you communicating openly and honestly, or are you holding back, afraid of vulnerability? Living authentically in the face of everyday pressures demands resisting societal expectations, setting boundaries, and prioritizing your personal values. When your friends are pressuring you to go out drinking, but you'd rather stay home and read, it's okay to say no. Your time is valuable, and you have the right to spend it in a way that nourishes your soul. Resist the fear of missing out, the feeling that you're somehow depriving yourself by not participating in every social event. Learn to say no without guilt, knowing that you're honoring your own needs and desires. If you value honesty, speak your truth, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. If you value creativity, make time for art, music, or writing, even if it means sacrificing other activities. Be aware, however, that living authentically involves risks. Vulnerability exposes you to potential rejection, criticism, and loneliness. You share your true feelings with someone, and they react negatively. It hurts, but it doesn't invalidate your truth. Develop coping mechanisms for dealing with rejection, reminding yourself that other people's opinions don't define your worth. Pursuing your passion might not lead to success, as the world defines it, but it's better to fail doing what you love than to succeed doing something you hate. This is how you take a leap of faith. The constant willingness to embrace uncertainty and accept the inherent risks of self-discovery can lead to either despair or a life well lived. To take your self-discovery one step further, you must understand how to integrate the darker truths within yourself. Everyone possesses a shadow self, encompassing the aspects of our personality that we repress, deny, or disown. This shadow includes unacknowledged anger, envy, insecurity, selfishness, and other traits that we deem unacceptable. Instead of ignoring or suppressing it, acknowledge and integrate it into your conscious awareness. Confronting your shadow is not about indulging in negative behaviors, but about understanding the root causes of your actions and making conscious choices about how you want to behave. Recognize and accept that you are capable of both great kindness and great cruelty, of both selfless generosity and petty selfishness. Repressing the shadow has destructive consequences, leading to projection, defensiveness, and a lack of self-awareness. By projecting your own insecurities onto others, you criticize others for the very traits you dislike in yourself. The despair and faith pattern evolves, revealing that integrating the shadow can be a source of both despair and liberation. Facing the despair of acknowledging your own flaws can lead to liberation in accepting yourself as a complex and imperfect human being. You will become a better person if you are aware of your dark side. Ultimately, this honest assessment has rippling positive effects that go beyond the personal and into the social. Living authentically makes us more empathetic and compassionate towards others. By recognizing and accepting the flaws and vulnerabilities in ourselves, we become more understanding of other people's mistakes, knowing that we are also capable of making them. Authentic individuals challenge societal norms and create a more inclusive and just world. By speaking out against prejudice or advocating for the rights of marginalized groups, they challenge the status quo and inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Sharing your own struggles and vulnerabilities can encourage others to be more open and honest about their experiences. The path to individual authenticity ultimately leads to a greater sense of connection and purpose, both individually and collectively. By embracing your true self, you are contributing to a more authentic and compassionate world. By embracing your true self, you are contributing to a more authentic and compassionate world. The terrible truth of self-discovery is that it's not about finding happiness, but about finding meaning and purpose in a world filled with suffering. This may sound bleak, but it's ultimately empowering. Recognizing that life is inherently difficult allows you to embrace the challenges, to find strength in adversity, and to create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling. But what if, within that suffering, there is an even darker truth? But what if embracing faith means accepting the absurd, the logically contradictory? Kierkegaard challenges the Enlightenment's dominance of rationalism, daring us to consider that some truths aren't reached through reason, but through a leap of faith. While the scientific method scrutinizes empirical data, Kierkegaard posits that meaning and purpose, the cornerstones of a fulfilling existence, are accessed through subjective faith, a realm where evidence takes a backseat to belief. But why does Kierkegaard elevate faith above reason? Is it merely a rejection of logic, or something far more profound? To Kierkegaard, faith often necessitates embracing the absurd, a concept demanding belief in things that defy logic. Take Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac. To any rational mind, this act is horrific, a betrayal of paternal love and moral duty. Yet Kierkegaard presents it as the ultimate expression of faith, a willingness to obey God's command even when it contradicts reason and ethical principles. But does this principle only apply to religious contexts? No, it is applicable to everyday life. Consider someone pursuing a passion deemed foolish by others, such as dedicating years to mastering an obscure musical instrument or starting a business with no guarantee of success. These pursuits are leaps of faith into the absurd, bets placed on an uncertain future fueled by conviction rather than empirical proof. Why are people so ready to judge other people's absurd pursuits? Reason is undoubtedly valuable. It guides scientific advancement and informs practical decisions. Yet it falters when confronted with life's ultimate questions. What is my purpose? How should I live? Or what happens when I die? Relying solely on reason can lead to a sterile existence, devoid of passion and devoid of the intangible elements that give life its richness. Has there been a time when reason failed you, when cold logic left you feeling empty? Perhaps faith, not necessarily religious, could have provided a guiding light. This embrace of uncertainty is a recurring pattern. The leap of faith requires accepting the limits of reason, trusting in something beyond tangible proof and understanding. This notion is controversial, and some will disagree. However, this acceptance is essential to self-discovery. Without it, you risk becoming trapped in a cycle of analysis and paralysis, forever questioning the foundations of your beliefs without ever taking a chance. But what happens when the potential believer, sensing this need to embrace faith, instead turns to distraction? People often seek distraction from the terrible truth of self-discovery, finding solace in workaholism, addiction, entertainment, and even superficial relationships. Consider the person who binge-watches TV, endlessly scrolls through social media, or constantly seeks new sources of stimulation. These behaviors become means of escaping boredom, of quieting the nagging voice that demands introspection, that insists on confronting the deeper questions of existence. But what is the true cost of these distractions? These diversions often create a false sense of control, allowing avoidance of deep fears and anxieties. The workaholic, lauded for their dedication, might be avoiding marital problems or a deep-seated fear of failure. The social butterfly, constantly surrounded by others, might be masking a profound sense of loneliness. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. The longer the distraction continues, the harder it becomes to break free, as the underlying issues fester and intensify, further fueling the need for escape. Why is it that the most successful or social people seem the most unhappy? Distraction offers temporary relief, but leads to inauthenticity and unfulfilled potential. Consider someone who postpones their dreams until retirement, only to discover they are too old or sick to pursue them. Has there been a time when you avoided something, delaying it until it became an insurmountable obstacle? The terrible truth becomes more difficult to confront and more frightening. The more one tries to avoid this truth, the more intense existential angst becomes. Is this angst a symptom of modern society? A society obsessed with productivity, instant gratification, and superficial connection? Regardless, there are strategies for breaking free from these distractions, practical tools to help you confront what you're trying to avoid. These will be explored later, but first it is important to explore where these distractions stem from and how to create meaning in a world that seems to lack it. Life is inherently absurd, lacking any objective meaning or purpose. This is the central tenet of Kierkegaard's philosophy, a concept that can be both a source of despair and liberation. The despair arises from the realization that there is no grand plan, no cosmic script that dictates our roles or guarantees a happy ending. But this lack of inherent purpose can also be incredibly liberating. If life has no inherent meaning, it is up to each individual to create their own. Meaning is not something to be discovered, like a hidden treasure, but something to be actively constructed, like a work of art. Are you passively waiting for meaning to find you, or actively building a life that resonates with your values and passions? This creation of meaning requires commitment to something beyond oneself, a willingness to dedicate one's life to a cause or set of values. It is the activist who fights for social justice, the artist who creates art that inspires others, and the teacher who cultivates knowledge. It requires sacrifice, dedication, and unwavering belief in the importance of the chosen endeavor. But what happens when passion wanes, when dedication falters, and the meaning you've created seems to lose its luster? The focus shifts from individual suffering to a celebration of the human capacity for creativity and resilience. The pattern of despair and faith evolves. Embracing absurdity leads to a deeper, more authentic form of faith, a faith not rooted in blind obedience, but in conscious creation. It may be better to create meaning, not discover it. As Camus argued, one must imagine Sisyphus happy, finding joy in the endless task, the constant struggle, and the persistent act of creation. This is another tool on the path of self-discovery. Since suffering is unavoidable, how can you find meaning in the seemingly meaningless? Suffering is an unavoidable part of the human condition. But what if suffering is not a punishment, but an opportunity for growth and transformation? Can the loss of a loved one, a serious illness, or a major career setback be transformative? Kierkegaard argues that suffering can deepen understanding of ourselves and the world, making us more compassionate, resilient, and appreciative of life's simple pleasures. It's the person who has battled depression, being better equipped to empathize with others struggling with mental health. They possess a depth of understanding that those who have never experienced such darkness can barely comprehend. Suffering becomes a catalyst for personal growth, prompting a re-evaluation of priorities and the choice of more meaningful paths. Someone who survives a life-threatening illness may dedicate their life to helping others. Someone who has survived something like this, or pursuing their passions more intensely. Someone who has experienced betrayal may set boundaries and choose their relationships more carefully. By embracing it, one finds the opportunity to create a life more aligned with their authentic self. By acknowledging suffering, do we welcome hardship? By seeking ways to avoid suffering, are we actually avoiding life itself? Is constant avoidance truly living? What is at stake if we cannot integrate suffering into our idea of a good life? The ultimate paradox of self-discovery. The terrible truth is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. It's the path to greater authenticity, meaning, and fulfillment. This is the ultimate leap of faith. Is this embrace of faith merely a call to ignore suffering and embrace relentless positivity? The self-help industry often promotes a message of unwavering optimism, urging individuals to focus solely on positive thoughts and affirmations. While positivity can be beneficial, it becomes harmful when it suppresses genuine emotions or avoids difficult truths. This superficial positivity creates a mirage of well-being, masking underlying issues that demand attention. The danger lies in mistaking this manufactured happiness for authentic fulfillment. But what happens when this facade crumbles, when the weight of reality shatters the illusion of constant positivity? Consider the person who constantly tells themselves, "I'm fine," while battling depression, or the individual who uses affirmations to mask deep-seated insecurities. This constant denial of reality prevents genuine healing and growth. Relentless optimism becomes a form of avoidance, a way to escape the terrible truth of one's inner struggles. The pressure to maintain a positive attitude can be isolating, invalidating genuine emotions and hindering the journey toward authentic self-discovery. Has there ever been a time when you felt obligated to be positive, even when you were hurting inside? How did it affect your ability to cope with the real issue at hand? This relentless pursuit of positivity stands in stark contrast to authentic faith, which acknowledges and embraces the full spectrum of human emotions, including suffering. False hope is rooted in denial and wishful thinking. It's the belief that everything will magically work out without any effort or acceptance of reality. Authentic faith, on the other hand, is rooted in acceptance, a commitment to living meaningfully despite life's inevitable challenges. False hope might be believing you'll win the lottery without buying a ticket, while authentic faith might be believing you can overcome adversity even when the odds are stacked against you. Was Kierkegaard's life defined by false hope or authentic faith? Kierkegaard's life was filled with hardship, unrequited love, and constant criticism. Yet he never succumbed to false hope. He embraced the terrible truth of his existence, finding meaning and purpose in his writing and his faith. Contrast this with the modern influencer who promotes toxic positivity, urging their followers to just be happy, regardless of their circumstances. Which approach seems more sustainable, more authentic? What happens when that influencer's life inevitably takes a turn for the worse? Negative emotions like sadness, anger, and fear are not inherently bad. They serve as valuable signals, prompting us to address problems and make necessary changes. Feeling angry about injustice can motivate us to take action. Feeling sad about a loss can help us to process grief and move forward. To deny these emotions is to deny a crucial part of our humanity, hindering our ability to learn and grow. Can we truly appreciate joy without experiencing sorrow, or understand courage without facing fear? True faith requires embracing the full spectrum of human emotions, not just the positive ones. This complexity creates a new pattern of despair and faith, recognizing that even in the darkest moments, there is potential for growth and transformation. Relentless positivity can be a type of avoidance, a way to shield ourselves from the terrible truth of our existence. By acknowledging and accepting these emotions, we create space for genuine healing and move closer to authentic faith. Why are we so quick to dismiss negative emotions, when they often hold the key to deeper understanding? And how does one confront the temptation to avoid the complexity of these emotions and move closer to the truth of life? But what happens when confronting these emotions leads to a morass of ambiguity with no clear direction or easy answers? Life is often filled with moral ambiguity and ethical dilemmas where there are no clear-cut solutions. These dilemmas can be paralyzing, forcing us to confront the limitations of our own understanding. How can we navigate these murky waters and make choices that align with our values? Consider a situation where telling the truth would hurt someone's feelings, or where choosing between two competing values leads to negative consequences. The classic trolley problem is another point of reference, where any decision leads to unavoidable harm. These situations highlight the inherent complexity of moral decision-making. Are there universal moral principles that can guide us, or are we left to navigate these dilemmas on our own? In the absence of clear answers, it is up to each individual to take responsibility for their choices and to act in accordance with their own conscience. This requires a deep understanding of our own values, as well as a willingness to accept the consequences of our actions. Choosing to support a cause that you believe in, even when it is unpopular or controversial, is an example of taking personal responsibility. But how do we ensure that our conscience is a reliable guide, and not simply a reflection of societal norms or personal biases? There is a danger of moral relativism, where all values are seen as equally valid. This can lead to a lack of commitment and a loss of moral compass. Someone who justifies their actions by saying everyone does it, or it's just a matter of opinion, is an example of this. While tolerance and understanding are essential, uncritical acceptance of all values can undermine the very foundation of morality. How can we strike a balance between respecting diverse perspectives and upholding fundamental ethical principles? And how do we create a moral compass that withstands the winds of social pressure? Making difficult moral choices can lead to isolation, criticism, and even persecution. Standing up for what you believe in often comes at a cost, as you challenge established norms and risk alienating others. This can be a lonely path, demanding courage and conviction. Yet, it is through these difficult choices that we define our character and contribute to a more just and compassionate world. Does the potential for isolation deter you from taking a stand for what you believe in? How can one develop a strong moral compass based on personal values and principles? The journey requires moving beyond societal norms and expectations. It requires a deep understanding of oneself, as well as a willingness to question established beliefs. challenging traditional gender roles, or questioning the pursuit of material wealth as a primary goal are examples of this. By freeing ourselves from the constraints of conventional wisdom, we can create a value system that aligns with our authentic selves. But how do we begin this process of questioning and re-evaluation? Self-reflection is essential for identifying and clarifying one's values. This involves delving into our past experiences, examining our role models, and articulating our core beliefs. Think about someone you admire. What qualities do they possess? Do you value these qualities yourself? Reflecting on past experiences, both positive and negative, can reveal what truly matters to us. Writing a personal manifesto can be a powerful tool for articulating our values and setting a course for our lives. What exercises have been most useful for you in understanding what you value most? Living in alignment with one's values leads to a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment. Conversely, compromising one's values leads to feelings of guilt, shame, and inauthenticity. Someone who values honesty might choose to leave a job where they are asked to deceive customers, even if it means taking a financial hit. While it is important to make rational decisions, it is equally important to stand by one's principles. How often have you sacrificed what you wanted for what you thought you should want? A strong personal value system provides a foundation for making difficult choices and navigating moral ambiguity. It acts as a compass, guiding us through complex situations and helping us to stay true to ourselves. This journey is iterative, requiring constant self-reflection and a willingness to adapt our values as we grow and learn. It is a lifelong pursuit. What happens then when we finally found the balance between suffering, joy, faith, and morality? The terrible truth is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be embraced as a path to liberation. By confronting our deepest fears and anxieties, we can free ourselves from their power and live more authentically. Embracing suffering, absurdity, and uncertainty can lead to a deeper sense of meaning and purpose, as well as a greater appreciation for the simple joys of life. How often are your greatest fears realized? True liberation comes from accepting oneself fully, including both the light and the dark aspects of one's personality. Accepting that you are capable of both great kindness and great cruelty, and choosing to act in accordance with your highest values connects back to the discussion of the shadow self. Can the shadow self be a source of strength, and how does one learn to integrate that side of themselves? Embracing the terrible truth is a continuous process of self-discovery, involving cycles of despair and faith, struggles for authenticity, and leaps into the unknown. Self-discovery is not about finding happiness, but about cultivating wisdom, resilience, and compassion in a world filled with suffering. What if the very notion of a singular, discoverable, true self is a mirage, a comforting fiction that ultimately hinders genuine growth? We're often told that deep within us lies an authentic self, a hidden treasure waiting to be unearthed through introspection and self-help practices. Popular culture reinforces this idea with narratives of individuals shedding their false pretenses and finally becoming who they were always meant to be. But what if this treasure hunt leads to a dead end? What if the relentless pursuit of this elusive, true self only intensifies our existential angst and leaves us feeling more lost than ever? Consider the common self-help narrative that promises self-discovery is akin to uncovering a hidden treasure, with the real you buried beneath layers of conditioning and trauma. This perspective suggests that once you remove these layers, you will find your authentic self, a perfect and complete being. However, what happens if you search and never find this treasure? What if, instead of a single, fixed self, you discover a multitude of conflicting desires, contradictory beliefs, and ever-changing aspirations? Could the search itself be a form of avoidance, a way to postpone the more challenging task of creating a meaningful existence from the raw materials of our experiences? After all, if it is already in you, do you really have to try? Kierkegaard challenges this essentialist view, arguing that existence precedes essence. This means that we are not born with a predefined self waiting to be discovered, but rather we create ourselves through our choices and actions. There is no inherent, true self to find. Instead, we are constantly becoming through the decisions we make in the face of uncertainty. This perspective shifts the emphasis from inherent qualities to active choices. An essentialist might say, "I am a kind person," implying that kindness is an intrinsic part of their being. Kierkegaard, on the other hand, would say, "I choose to act kindly," emphasizing the ongoing effort and commitment required to embody that virtue. This is a subtle but profound difference. But what happens when the you that you're building is someone you don't like? Self-labeling, the seemingly harmless act of defining ourselves, can also become a trap. When we attach labels to ourselves, we risk limiting our potential and preventing ourselves from growing beyond these self-imposed boundaries. Someone who identifies as shy, for instance, might avoid social situations, reinforcing their shyness and preventing them from developing social skills. This self-definition becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Should you embrace your identity or reject it to achieve growth? Is it better to accept who you are or to strive to become someone different? Moreover, how long do you try to change before accepting reality? What if there's nothing to find? What if the journey of self-discovery isn't about uncovering a hidden treasure, but about building a unique masterpiece? If we abandon the search for a fixed, essential self and embrace the idea that we are constantly creating ourselves through our choices, then we open ourselves up to endless possibilities for growth and transformation. This shifts the perspective from passive discovery to active creation, empowering us to take responsibility for shaping our own identities. Let us now embark on the journey of the self as an ongoing project. Think of yourself as an artist, constantly shaping and reshaping your masterpiece. There is no finished product, only a continuous process of creation and interpretation. Each brushstroke, each color choice, each addition or subtraction contributes to the evolving artwork that is your life. This perspective emphasizes the agency and responsibility we have in shaping our own identities. Choosing to pursue a new career path, learning a new skill, or developing a new relationship are all ways of actively creating yourself. In each of these endeavors, you are not simply discovering a pre-existing talent or destiny, but rather you are forging your own path and defining who you are through your actions. But is there an end to the project? Experimentation and exploration become essential components of this self-creation process. By trying new things and stepping outside of our comfort zones, we can reveal hidden talents, uncover dormant passions, and discover new facets of ourselves. Taking a class in something you've never tried before, volunteering for a cause you care about, or traveling to a new place can all be transformative experiences. These experiences not only broaden our horizons, but also provide us with valuable insights into our own capabilities and preferences. What happens, though, when we experiment and fail? Integrating the themes of despair, dread, and authenticity, we see that embracing the self as a project allows us to navigate these challenges with greater resilience and creativity. It's no longer about finding myself, it's about building myself, brick by painstaking brick. This is more difficult, but also more rewarding. It requires a willingness to embrace uncertainty, to accept failure as a learning opportunity, and to continuously adapt and evolve in response to new experiences. This perspective allows us to view despair not as a sign of failure, but as a catalyst for growth. This is not just a journey of self-discovery, but a journey of self-creation. And how can one find structure in a world of ambiguity and infinite possibilities? Our understanding of ourselves and the world is shaped by our subjective interpretations of our experiences. Two people experiencing the same event, such as a job loss, might interpret it differently. One as a devastating failure, the other as an opportunity for growth. These differing interpretations, in turn, shape their emotional responses and their subsequent actions. How we choose to interpret our experiences is a powerful determinant of our reality. What then can we learn from other people's interpretations of our shared reality? Our relationships with others also profoundly influence our self-perception. The concept of reflected appraisals suggests that we see ourselves through the eyes of others, internalizing their judgments and expectations. Someone who is constantly criticized by their parents might develop a negative self-image, even if they are actually talented and capable. What happens when you have unsupportive people around you? How can you resist the negative influences of others and cultivate a positive self-image in the face of adversity? After all, we are social creatures, and what others think of us matters on some level. Cultural narratives and societal expectations further shape our understanding of what is normal or desirable, influencing our self-definitions. Cultural narratives about success, beauty, or gender roles can create unrealistic expectations and lead to feelings of inadequacy. Someone who feels pressured to conform to these expectations might suppress their authentic selves and strive to embody an image that is not truly their own. What do you do when you feel like an outsider? By questioning the narratives we have internalized and considering alternative interpretations of our experiences, we can begin to break free from these limiting beliefs and create a more authentic self-understanding. This is often a difficult and uncomfortable process, as it requires us to challenge deeply ingrained assumptions and confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world. And it's often easier to just go with the flow. Is it more beneficial to challenge expectations or to conform to them? You are not the same person you were yesterday, and you will not be the same person tomorrow. Embrace the flow of change. Acknowledge the reality of change as a constant and unavoidable aspect of life. Ourselves are constantly evolving in response to new experiences and challenges. Someone who clings to a past identity that no longer serves them, or who refuses to update their beliefs in the face of new evidence, becomes rigid and resistant to growth. This resistance can lead to stagnation, frustration, and a sense of being out of sync with the world. Should you hold on to a memory that holds you back, clinging to fixed identities or beliefs can lead to rigidity and resistance to growth. The illusion of stability provides a sense of security, but it also prevents us from adapting to new circumstances and embracing new possibilities. Someone who refuses to update their beliefs in the face of new evidence, or someone who clings to a past identity that no longer serves them, becomes trapped in a self-made prison. So, when does clinging to the past become detrimental? Accepting the impermanence and incompleteness of the self is essential for finding peace and contentment. It's okay to not have all the answers and to be a work in progress. Embracing the idea that I am enough, even though I am not perfect, or finding joy in the journey of self-discovery, rather than focusing on the destination, allows us to cultivate a sense of self-acceptance and gratitude. What does it mean, though, to be enough? How much imperfection is acceptable? Integrating the themes of despair, faith, and the absurd, we see that embracing impermanence allows us to navigate these challenges with greater grace and resilience. True strength lies in adaptability and acceptance. By accepting the ever-changing nature of reality, we can find peace in the midst of chaos and uncertainty. So, is there any situation that is unacceptable? We selectively interpret information to confirm our existing beliefs or to maintain a positive self-image. This motivated reasoning can lead to a distorted view of reality and a lack of self-awareness. Downplaying evidence that contradicts our political views or overemphasizing our own positive qualities while minimizing our flaws are examples of this, even if we aren't aware that we're doing it. By being aware, can we prevent it? Common cognitive biases, such as the better-than-average effect, believing we are better than average in most areas, and the confirmation bias, seeking out information that confirms our existing beliefs, can distort our self-perception. Overestimating our own driving skills or intelligence, or selectively remembering positive experiences while forgetting negative ones, are common examples of these biases. These biases can create a false sense of superiority and prevent us from seeing ourselves as we truly are. How can one become aware of these innate biases? While self-deception may provide temporary comfort, it ultimately leads to a distorted view of reality and a lack of self-awareness. Someone who refuses to acknowledge their addiction, or someone who blames others for their problems rather than taking responsibility, is trapped in a cycle of denial and self-deception. This denial prevents them from addressing the underlying issues and making positive changes in their lives. Is ignorance bliss? Self-deception can be particularly insidious, as it can be difficult to recognize and challenge. This can hinder genuine self-discovery and personal growth. What if you're lying to yourself and you don't even know it? Can self-deception ever be beneficial, and how does one weigh the costs and benefits? What happens when you've come to realize that everything you believe in is based on a lie? Like other negative emotions, discomfort is a valuable signal that something is amiss, prompting us to question our assumptions, challenge our beliefs, and make necessary changes. Feeling discomfort when interacting with someone who holds different values, or feeling discomfort when pursuing a goal that doesn't align with our true desires, can be a sign that we need to reevaluate our choices and priorities. So, how does one properly interpret the signal? Stepping outside of one's comfort zone can promote growth and expand self-awareness. Trying a new activity, speaking up in a meeting, or having a difficult conversation with someone can be transformative experiences. These experiences challenge us to confront our fears, overcome our limitations, and discover new aspects of ourselves. Why is it so difficult to step outside our comfort zones? Resisting the urge to numb or avoid discomfort allows us to develop greater resilience and to learn valuable lessons about ourselves and the world. Instead of reaching for a drink when feeling anxious, trying to sit with the discomfort and explore its underlying causes can lead to greater self-understanding and more effective coping mechanisms. However, is there a point where discomfort becomes unbearable? Evolving the pattern of embracing suffering, we see that discomfort is a necessary component of growth, and that learning to tolerate it can lead to greater authenticity and fulfillment. Practicing mindfulness, seeking support, and reframing negative thoughts are all practical ways of navigating discomfort. This is not to say that we should actively seek out discomfort, but rather that we should not shy away from it when it arises. How can discomfort be incorporated into everyday life, and does it get easier to accept? Communities, societies, and even nations have their own terrible truths that they often avoid or deny. A nation's history of slavery or colonialism, a community's legacy of discrimination, or a family's patterns of abuse are all examples of these collective, terrible truths. These truths can be deeply uncomfortable to confront as they challenge our sense of identity and disrupt our existing power structures. So, how can we create a society that doesn't shy away from its terrible truths? Collective denial perpetuates injustice, hinders progress, and creates division. Refusing to acknowledge the ongoing impact of systemic racism or ignoring the warning signs of climate change are examples of this. These denials prevent us from addressing the underlying problems and creating a more just and sustainable world. How can denial take root in an entire society? Acknowledging these collective, terrible truths is essential for healing, reconciliation, and creating a more just and equitable world. Truth and reconciliation commissions, reparations for historical injustices, or community dialogues on difficult issues are all examples of this. These efforts can be painful and challenging, but they are necessary for creating a more honest and compassionate society. Is it, however, ethical to force others to reconcile? Balancing the need to acknowledge past wrongs with the desire to move forward and build a better future creates an ethical dilemma. Is it better to dwell on the past or to ignore it and move on? The answer lies in finding a way to honor the past without being consumed by it. This requires acknowledging the pain and suffering that has been caused, while also focusing on creating a more just and equitable future. What about forgiveness? Individual self-discovery is intertwined with collective healing. The struggles of the individual are connected to the struggles of the community, and the insights gained from self-reflection can be applied to collective challenges. By understanding our own biases and prejudices, we can become more aware of the systemic injustices that exist in our society. How can the individual help heal the collective? Self-discovery is not about finding a fixed identity, but about embarking on a continuous journey of self-creation, embracing the terrible truths along the way. Through embracing all aspects of existence and understanding that existence precedes essence, one can create a life of greater purpose, meaning, and personal satisfaction. What does a life lived well look like? This journey has transformative potential, highlighting the opportunities for growth, resilience, and compassion. One can create a life of greater purpose, meaning, and personal satisfaction through embracing all aspects of existence and understanding that existence precedes essence. This transformation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of learning, growing, and evolving. What happens when you reach the end of this life's journey? The terrible truth of self-discovery is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced as a path to greater authenticity, wisdom, and connection with oneself and with the world. Self-discovery is a cyclical process of despair and faith, struggles for authenticity, and leaps into the unknown. True liberation lies in accepting the impermanence and incompleteness of the self, and in committing to the ongoing project of self-creation. Having built upon all prior sections to make this journey more tangible and realistic, and less philosophical, we must now set the stage for the ultimate action. The grand project that is you may be threatened, however, by a tempting shortcut: nihilism. A philosophy suggesting life is without objective meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value. Nihilism can initially seem liberating. It's important not to conflate nihilism with existentialism. Both acknowledge the apparent absurdity of existence, but while existentialism strives to create meaning in the face of this absurdity, nihilism denies that such meaning is even possible. Think of it this way. Existentialism sees life as a blank canvas upon which we can paint our own masterpiece, while nihilism sees the canvas as inherently empty, rendering all artistic endeavors pointless. For example, faced with the loss of a job, an existentialist might view it as an opportunity to explore new career paths or develop new skills. A nihilist, on the other hand, might simply conclude that work is meaningless and sink into apathy. How might nihilism begin to feel like an appealing path for someone struggling with the weight of self-discovery? Nihilism's allure lies in its promise of freedom. Freedom from responsibility, guilt, and societal expectations. If nothing truly matters, then why bother adhering to moral codes or striving for success? This can be a seductive proposition, especially for those burdened by the terrible truths of self-discovery. The weight of existential angst, the struggle to define oneself, and the discomfort of confronting one's flaws can all feel overwhelming. Nihilism offers an escape from this burden by declaring it all meaningless. Imagine a student struggling with the pressure to succeed academically. Nihilism might whisper in their ear, "Why bother studying? Grades don't matter. The whole system is rigged." This provides a convenient excuse for inaction and relieves the student of the responsibility of trying. But at what cost? What makes this attitude so dangerous? While nihilism may initially seem liberating, it ultimately leads to an existential void. If nothing has inherent meaning, then life becomes a monotonous and pointless exercise. Apathy sets in, motivation dwindles, and despair takes root. The psychological impact of embracing nihilism can be devastating. Someone fully immersed in a nihilistic worldview may struggle to find joy in anything. Relationships become shallow, work becomes a chore, and the will to live slowly fades. The initial sense of freedom quickly morphs into a profound sense of emptiness. These consequences are often overlooked in the initial embrace of nihilism, blinded as one is by its siren song of liberation. What happens, though, when the freedom you thought you gained turns into a prison? Acknowledging the potential appeal of nihilism is crucial. It's a tempting path, especially when the road of self-discovery becomes arduous. However, surrendering to nihilism is a dead end for those seeking genuine self-understanding and a meaningful existence. It's akin to taking a shortcut through a dark forest, only to discover that it leads to a bottomless pit. The stakes are high: genuine self-understanding and meaning versus the bleak emptiness of a meaningless existence. But how can one escape this trap once the initial temptation has taken root? The answer lies in actively creating and committing to your own values. Existentialism posits that meaning is not inherent, but created through our choices and actions. We are not born with a predefined purpose. Instead, we must forge our own path and imbue our lives with meaning. This requires consciously choosing values to guide our decisions and shape our behavior. Consider someone struggling with a sense of meaninglessness in their career. Instead of succumbing to nihilism and simply going through the motions, they can actively identify their core values. Are they passionate about creativity, helping others, or making a difference in the world? Once they have identified these values, they can then seek out ways to align their work with them. Perhaps they can volunteer for a project that allows them to use their creative skills to benefit others. Or maybe they need to seek an entirely new career. What tangible steps can one take to identify and prioritize their personal values? Consider journaling exercises, value clarification worksheets, or even discussions with trusted friends. Aligning actions with deeply held values can ignite passion and provide a sense of purpose, effectively counteracting the apathy and meaninglessness of nihilism. When you are driven by something larger than yourself, the inevitable challenges and setbacks of life become more bearable. For someone who values social justice, volunteering for a non-profit organization or advocating for policy changes can provide a sense of purpose and meaning. For someone who values creativity, pursuing a career in the arts, or simply dedicating time to artistic pursuits can ignite passion and bring joy. However, it is crucial to distinguish genuine passions from mere distractions or even addictions. How can one avoid confusing passions with distractions or addictions? Careful self-reflection and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about one's motivations are essential. Committing to values requires accepting responsibility for the consequences of our choices and actions. This means owning up to our mistakes, apologizing to those we have wronged, and taking steps to correct our behavior. While this can be difficult and uncomfortable, it is essential for living an authentic and meaningful life. Imagine someone who values honesty but has been caught in a lie. Instead of trying to cover it up or rationalize their behavior, they must take responsibility for their actions, confess their lie, and make amends to those who were affected. Value alignment can make such acceptance less difficult, as it provides a framework for understanding why honesty is important and why taking responsibility is the right thing to do. But what happens when your values conflict with each other? Transcending nihilism requires a courageous commitment to values, even in the face of uncertainty and suffering. It's not a one-time decision, but an ongoing process of refinement and adjustment. It also enables progress on one's personal journey, as well as providing the motivation to face new difficulties on the path. But how do you translate these values into action, and how do you overcome the inevitable obstacles that will arise? The answer lies in embodied ethics. The road from intention to action is often paved with good intentions, but riddled with obstacles. It's easy to espouse values like honesty, kindness, and integrity, but far more challenging to consistently embody them in our daily lives. The gap between intention and action is a common human experience. Fear of failure, laziness, societal pressures, and conflicting desires can all prevent us from translating our values into tangible actions. Consider someone who values environmentalism but struggles to reduce their carbon footprint due to the convenience and cost of less sustainable alternatives. or someone who values kindness but still finds themselves judging others harshly? How can these barriers be overcome? Creating habits and rituals that reinforce values is a practical strategy for bridging the gap between intention and action. These habits and rituals serve as anchors, reminding us of our commitments and providing structure to our daily lives. Setting aside time each day for meditation or reflection can help cultivate mindfulness and promote ethical decision-making. Volunteering on a regular basis can reinforce values of compassion and service. Surrounding oneself with people who share similar values can provide support and accountability. Furthermore, habit formation can make value expression more automatic, reducing the need for constant conscious effort. But what about those times when you simply don't feel like following your habits? Small steps can make a big difference in the long run. Overhauling an entire life overnight is unrealistic and unsustainable. Instead, focus on making incremental changes, one small step at a time. Committing to reducing consumption of single-use plastics, making a conscious effort to be more present in conversations, or simply smiling at a stranger are all examples of small steps that can have a ripple effect. Consistency is more important than intensity. A small, consistent effort is far more effective than a sporadic burst of intense activity. Why is consistency so important, and how can one maintain it over the long term? Living in accordance with your values is a continuous process of refinement and adjustment, not a destination to be reached. There will be setbacks, failures, and moments of doubt. It's essential to view these challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, rather than as signs of failure. Track your progress, seek support from trusted friends or mentors, and celebrate your successes, no matter how small. This journey creates a more effective understanding of philosophical principles as well as the embodiment of the values themselves. Remember, perfection is not the goal, progress is. That said, how can the insights one gains be used to treat oneself better? Self-compassion is a necessary foundation for living a meaningful and fulfilling life. It involves treating ourselves with the same kindness, understanding, and acceptance that we would offer a friend, especially when struggling or making mistakes. This means speaking to yourself with kindness and understanding, accepting your imperfections and limitations without self-judgment, and recognizing that you are worthy of love and belonging regardless of your flaws. Without this foundation of self-compassion, it becomes difficult to extend genuine compassion to others. Does this mean that compassion requires self-acceptance? And if so, how can one cultivate it? Cultivating self-compassion makes it easier to extend compassion to others. By recognizing our shared humanity, understanding that everyone struggles and makes mistakes, we can become more empathetic and understanding towards those who are different from us. This allows us to be more patient and forgiving with others, to stand up for those who are being marginalized or oppressed, and to create a more supportive and compassionate world. Compassion fosters connection and strengthens relationships, as relating to others with kindness and understanding creates a more supportive environment. Does this mean that self-compassion can strengthen relationships with others? And if so, how? Examine your own levels of self-compassion and identify areas where you can be kinder to yourself and others. Challenge yourself to practice self-compassion daily, even in small ways. Offer yourself a kind word when you make a mistake, or take a moment to appreciate your strengths and accomplishments. This can also create an ethical dilemma of balancing compassion with justice. Is it ever okay to withhold compassion from those who have caused harm? Furthermore, can one really understand Kierkegaard without demonstrating compassion, both for oneself and for others? Showing compassion may also lead to being taken advantage of. Is there such a thing as too much compassion, and what are the potential downsides of excessive empathy? Conventional definitions of success and fulfillment often focus on material wealth, status, and external achievements. While there's nothing inherently wrong with these things, relying on them as the sole measures of success can be limiting and ultimately unfulfilling. Someone who achieves great financial success but feels empty and disconnected from their loved ones, or someone who strives for fame and recognition, but finds that it doesn't bring them lasting happiness, are examples of this. These societal definitions are difficult to resist, as they are constantly reinforced by the media, advertising, and even well-meaning family and friends. But what happens when you achieve these external goals and still feel empty inside? External validation, seeking approval from others, is different than internal validation, finding satisfaction and meaning within oneself. True fulfillment comes from cultivating internal validation, rather than relying on external sources. Focus on pursuing activities that align with your values, setting personal goals that are challenging but meaningful, and finding joy in the process of learning and growing, rather than solely on the outcome. Consider someone who pursues a career that aligns with their values, even if it doesn't pay well, or someone who sets personal goals that are challenging but meaningful, rather than trying to impress others. They are cultivating internal validation and finding fulfillment in the process itself. Focus on the process of living a meaningful life, rather than solely on the outcome. True joy comes from engaging in activities that find intrinsically rewarding, regardless of whether they lead to external success. Success may be an illusion, but striving toward goals is still valuable. Cultivate gratitude for the present moment, appreciate the small joys of life, and find meaning in the everyday experiences. Suggesting this, true fulfillment comes from embracing the journey of self-discovery, with all its terrible truths, its challenges, and its triumphs. But what does this journey ultimately lead to? Embracing the unknown requires a leap of faith. This concept requires venturing beyond the familiar and the comfortable, trusting that you have the inner resources to handle whatever challenges may arise. Leaving a secure job to pursue a passion, ending a toxic relationship, or moving to a new city to start over are all examples. The decision to embrace the unknown requires courage and a willingness to step outside of the comfort zone. But at what point is it safe to embrace the unknown, and how does one avoid being reckless or selfish? How do you embrace the unknown without abandoning your responsibilities? Acknowledge the fear and doubt that can arise when facing the unknown. Instead, offer practical strategies for overcoming these emotions, such as practicing mindfulness, seeking support, and reframing negative thoughts. Remind yourself that fear is a natural response to uncertainty, and that acting despite it is a sign of courage. Challenge negative thoughts by asking, "Is this really true?" and replacing them with more positive and realistic ones. A healthy dose of paranoia might even improve outcomes. At what point, though, does rational analysis turn into self-defeating fear-mongering? Trust the process of self-discovery. Even when you don't know where you are going, you can trust that you are on the right path, as long as you are living in accordance with your values and acting with integrity. Have faith that even when things seem to be falling apart, they are actually falling into place, and trust that even when you make mistakes, you can learn from them and grow. At what point does trusting the process become blind faith, and what steps can you take to avoid being led astray? Embrace the terrible truth, overcome with faith and trust in yourself, and take the first steps on the journey and keep moving despite doubt. The greatest risk is never taking the leap. Take action and keep moving, allowing this video to maintain the desired positive tone and setting the stage for further exploration. The journey of self-discovery, while essential, can often lead us into the trap of over-intellectualization. We begin to dissect every feeling, analyze every thought, and scrutinize every interaction, losing ourselves in a labyrinth of mental gymnastics. Kierkegaard cautioned against this tendency, recognizing that excessive reasoning can become a barrier to authentic experience. This analysis paralysis can prevent us from truly engaging with life, as we become more concerned with understanding than with living. How often do we spend so much time planning and strategizing that we miss the opportunity to act? Consider the aspiring entrepreneur who endlessly researches market trends, analyzes competitor strategies, and projects financial outcomes. yet never launches their business. Or the individual who spends countless hours contemplating the perfect relationship, only to remain perpetually single, dissecting every potential partner with an overly critical eye. The cost of excessive thought is the forfeiture of experience. The benefits of intellectual understanding, while valuable, are outweighed when they impede our capacity for spontaneous action and genuine engagement. Are we sacrificing the richness of life on the altar of intellectual certainty? Over-intellectualization can also lead to a profound disconnect from our emotions. We become detached observers of our own feelings, analyzing them as if they were specimens under a microscope. Kierkegaard, however, understood that emotions are integral to the human experience, providing invaluable insights into our values, desires, and fears. By suppressing or intellectualizing our emotions, we diminish our capacity for empathy, intuition, and genuine connection. The individual who intellectualizes grief, dissecting the stages of bereavement rather than allowing themselves to feel the pain of loss, may find themselves trapped in a cycle of emotional detachment. Or someone who analyzes their relationships, scrutinizing every interaction for hidden meanings, fails to experience the simple joy of connection. In what ways does the over-intellectualization affect the vital connections with other people? Furthermore, excessive intellectual analysis can erode our capacity for spontaneity and wonder. We approach every experience with a critical and analytical mindset, dissecting it into its constituent parts rather than appreciating its inherent beauty and mystery. Kierkegaard valued spontaneity and awe, recognizing their vital role in combating despair and cultivating a sense of meaning. The person who analyzes a breathtaking sunset, scrutinizing its color composition and atmospheric effects, misses the opportunity to simply bask in its beauty. Or the individual who approaches every new experience with skepticism and cynicism, analyzing its potential flaws and shortcomings, closes themselves off from the possibility of wonder. What tangible steps can one take to nurture a sense of wonder and appreciation? Over-intellectualization serves as another way of avoiding the leap of faith. Just as excessive reliance on reason can prevent us from embracing the inherent uncertainty of existence, so too can excessive analysis become a shield against the unknown. By constantly seeking intellectual certainty, we avoid the discomfort of ambiguity and the vulnerability of trusting our intuition. This sets up the question: how can we strike a balance between intellect and emotion, between reason and intuition? Is it truly better to be ignorant or to be hyper-aware? As we navigate the complexities of self-discovery, it becomes essential to find strategies for overcoming over-intellectualization and cultivating a more balanced approach to life. To transcend the limitations of the mind, we must embrace the power of embodiment. This involves shifting our awareness from the realm of abstract thought to the concrete reality of our physical bodies. Kierkegaard recognized that the body is not merely a vessel for the mind, but an integral part of our being, a source of wisdom and experience. Practices like yoga, dance, hiking, and other physical activities can promote body awareness and connection, allowing us to experience life through our senses. These practices can help us to reconnect with our physicality and discover the profound wisdom it holds. But how exactly do we cultivate this sensory awareness? One powerful technique is mindful breathing. By focusing on the sensation of each breath, we can anchor ourselves in the present moment and quiet the incessant chatter of the mind. Body scan meditations involve systematically attending to different parts of the body, noticing any sensations of tension, discomfort, or pleasure. Paying attention to the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and textures of our surroundings can also cultivate sensory awareness. Taking a walk in nature and focusing on the feeling of the wind on your skin, the sounds of birdsong, and the scent of damp earth can be a powerful way to reconnect with your senses and ground yourself in the present moment. By fully engaging our senses, we can tap into a deeper level of awareness and understanding, bypassing the limitations of over-intellectualization. Are there ways to enhance these sensory experiences? The body possesses its own unique form of wisdom, a deep intuitive knowing that can guide us in making decisions, navigating emotions, and living in accordance with our values. By listening to our bodies, we can overcome over-intellectualization and connect with our intuition, allowing us to make choices that are aligned with our authentic selves. Noticing physical sensations of tension or discomfort can serve as signals that we need to slow down, take a break, or change our approach. Learning to interpret these signals can provide valuable guidance in navigating the complexities of life. But how can we differentiate between genuine intuition and mere emotional reactions? Furthermore, despair is often felt as a physical burden, a heavy weight that presses down on our bodies and spirits. Embodiment can be a way of releasing this burden, of reconnecting with our vitality and reclaiming our sense of agency. By engaging in physical activities that bring us joy and connect us with our senses, we can begin to alleviate the physical and emotional symptoms of despair. The act of moving our bodies, of feeling our muscles engage and our breath deepen, can be a powerful antidote to the inertia and hopelessness that often accompany despair. This leads us to the question, how can stillness and silence provide further solace in the face of existential angst? In the midst of our hyper-stimulated modern lives, cultivating stillness and silence is essential for finding peace, clarity, and connection with our inner selves. The constant noise and stimulation of modern life can overwhelm our senses, distract us from our inner selves, and contribute to over-intellectualization. The bombardment of information from social media, the pressure to be constantly productive, and the scarcity of opportunities for quiet reflection can all contribute to a sense of overwhelm and disconnection. Finding solace and actively seeking moments of stillness are critical aspects of healthy well-being. Is there an ethical component to maintaining stillness in the face of so much suffering? Stillness can provide an antidote to the frenetic pace of modern life. Kierkegaard valued solitude and contemplation as ways of combating despair and embracing the leap of faith. Creating moments of solitude, setting aside time each day for quiet reflection, turning off electronic devices, and creating a sacred space for meditation or prayer can all help us to cultivate stillness. Spending time in nature, meditating, journaling, or simply sitting in silence and observing our thoughts and feelings can provide a much-needed respite from the noise and distractions of the world. How can we make stillness a regular part of our lives, rather than a rare and fleeting experience? Even a few minutes of silence can make a dramatic difference in our overall well-being. It allows us to connect with a deeper reality, a sense of presence and peace that transcends the anxieties and worries of our daily lives. This is not merely an escape from the world, but an opportunity to connect with a deeper reality, to tap into a source of wisdom and inspiration that lies within us. The act of pausing, of simply being present with ourselves, can open us up to new insights and perspectives. It also aligns with Kierkegaard's views on the religious stage of life, where personal connection to the divine offers a path beyond despair. What challenges arise when trying to pursue stillness? Cultivating a sense of awe and wonder can help us to reconnect with our sense of purpose, expand our horizons, and embrace the leap of faith. The experiences in daily life can often lead to a loss of awe and wonder as we become desensitized to the beauty and mystery of the world around us. Taking for granted the beauty of nature or becoming jaded and cynical about human potential can diminish our capacity for joy and inspiration. Awe provides balance and an appreciation for the beauty and potential around us. Is it a worthwhile investment to put effort into maintaining awe? This, though, can be combated with perspective. Kierkegaard believed that awe is essential for experiencing the sublime and transcending the limitations of our finite selves. Gazing at the stars, listening to music, or witnessing acts of kindness and compassion can evoke feelings of awe and wonder, reminding us of the vastness and interconnectedness of all things. Seeking out experiences that inspire awe and wonder even in the midst of our daily routines, is a form of resistance against the numbing effects of modern life. How can one incorporate these feelings into day-to-day life? Visiting a museum, attending a concert, or simply taking a different route home and noticing the details of our surroundings can spark a sense of wonder. Even more, cultivating gratitude for the simple things in life, a warm cup of coffee, a beautiful flower, a kind word from a friend can also foster a sense of awe and appreciation. It's worth noting that scientific evidence supports the positive benefits of experiencing awe, including reduced stress, heightened feelings of social connection, and increased creativity. How can we challenge ourselves to actively seek out experiences that inspire awe and wonder? Finally, to truly embrace the journey of self-discovery, we must embrace imperfection and vulnerability. The societal pressure to be perfect can lead to feelings of inadequacy, shame, and self-doubt. Kierkegaard believed that striving for perfection is a form of despair, as it denies our inherent limitations and imperfections. The pressure to have the perfect body, the perfect career, the perfect relationship, or the perfect life can be overwhelming, leading to a constant sense of failure and dissatisfaction. But what can we realistically strive towards? Embracing our imperfections and vulnerabilities is essential for connecting with others, building authentic relationships, and living a meaningful life. Vulnerability allows us to be seen and accepted for who we truly are, rather than who we pretend to be. Sharing our struggles and insecurities with trusted friends, or being willing to admit when we are wrong, can foster deeper connections and create a sense of belonging. Some examples include business leaders being vulnerable about business mistakes, or politicians admitting when they don't know about certain policies. Is it possible for vulnerability to be misinterpreted? In short, we can learn to control how we respond to circumstances. The path forward requires understanding that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. This entails embracing our imperfections, cultivating self-compassion, and finding the courage to live authentically, even in the face of uncertainty and doubt. But is it always a good idea to be vulnerable and open, or are there times when it is better to be guarded? The key to moving forward is to accept that perfection is an illusion, and that true fulfillment lies in embracing our humanity with all its flaws and imperfections. The wisdom of embracing the terrible truth lies not in finding definitive answers, but in learning to navigate the inherent uncertainty of existence with courage and authenticity. Kierkegaard's core insight's existence precedes essence. Meaning is created, not discovered. Faith is a continuous journey, and despair is a necessary component of a framework for understanding this process. Embracing these ideas shifts our perspective, allowing us to see challenges as opportunities for growth and to find meaning in the midst of suffering. What if the very things we fear most are the keys to unlocking our greatest potential? The central paradox is that confronting the terrible truth, potential for pain, anxiety, and meaninglessness actually liberates us. By acknowledging our fears and vulnerabilities, we free ourselves from the illusion of control and open ourselves up to genuine connection. Overcoming this fear is essential for future growth, as it allows us to live more authentically and to build stronger relationships with others. Taking the techniques discussed in this video and integrating them into a weekly or monthly schedule transforms self-discovery from an abstract concept into a tangible practice. How can we move from intellectual understanding to embodied wisdom? Cultivating wisdom involves learning to dance with despair, to acknowledge its presence without being consumed by it, and to maintain faith in our ability to move forward. This is not a passive acceptance of suffering, but an active engagement with the challenges of life, fueled by a commitment to authenticity and a belief in our own potential. As we navigate the complexities of existence, the relevance of Kierkegaard's philosophy becomes increasingly clear in the face of modern struggles. In a world that often seems chaotic and meaningless, his ideas offer a path towards greater self-awareness, purpose, and fulfillment. What if the key to finding happiness lies not in avoiding suffering, but in learning how to move forward with faith in the face of it? Kierkegaard's call to authenticity resonates deeply in a world that often pressures us to conform. The pressures of social media, the constant bombardment of information, and the lack of authentic connection can all contribute to feelings of despair. Choosing to prioritize personal values over societal expectations, or speaking out against injustice, even when it is unpopular, are acts of resistance that can create a ripple effect of positive change. What would the world look like if each person dared to live authentically, refusing to compromise their values in the face of societal pressure? Embracing the terrible truth makes us more compassionate and understanding towards others. When we recognize that we all share the same fundamental struggles, even though our experiences may be different, we are more likely to approach others with kindness and empathy. Embodying these principles in our own lives serves as a catalyst for positive change. By showing compassion and understanding, we create a more supportive and inclusive environment for everyone. Can we truly create a better world without first confronting our own inner demons? Individuals embodying these principles already exist in our world. Teachers who create safe spaces for students to express their vulnerabilities, activists who fight for social justice despite facing opposition, and artists who use their work to explore difficult emotions are examples of individuals who are living out Kierkegaard's philosophy. They understand and acknowledge the initial question posed at the beginning of this video. Is self-discovery always a positive journey, or does it contain hidden dangers? The answer is nuanced. Self-discovery can be a difficult and painful process, but it is ultimately a path to greater authenticity, freedom, and fulfillment. Is the risk of facing painful truths worth the reward of living a more authentic life? The cyclical nature of despair and faith reveals itself as we continue through our journey, but despair is not the end. It's a necessary step towards a renewed sense of hope and purpose. There is a potential for setbacks and relapses into old patterns, but continuing to move forward, trusting that you will eventually emerge stronger and wiser is essential. Having concrete tips and guidance for dealing with setbacks is also essential. Remember that the terrible truth becomes easier to overcome as one continues to develop. Now, take a moment to consider this question. Based on your own thoughts, feelings, and journey, is self-discovery worth it? As we conclude this exploration of self-discovery and Kierkegaard's philosophy, consider new questions to explore, such as the relationship between self-discovery and spirituality, the role of community in personal growth, or the application of Kierkegaard's ideas to other areas of life, such as politics or art. How can we create a more just and equitable world based on the principles of authenticity and compassion? How can we use art and creativity to express our deepest truths and connect with others? Continue your journey of self-discovery by engaging with Kierkegaard's works, seeking out mentors and role models, and sharing your experiences with others. Read Fear and Trembling or The Sickness Unto Death, join a philosophy book club, find a therapist, or simply spend time in nature. It is with inspiration and hope that we remind ourselves that we have the power to create meaningful and fulfilling lives, even in the face of suffering and uncertainty. Embrace the journey, trust your intuition, and never give up on your dreams. The world needs your unique gifts and talents. We will explore the ideas of other philosophers and psychologists, like Nietzsche and Jung, in future videos, and how they offer similar takes on the journey toward the authentic self. If you found this video insightful, please share it with others who might benefit from Kierkegaard's wisdom. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content on philosophy, psychology, and the search for meaning. By doing so, you'll be spreading the terrible truth and helping others on their own journeys of self-discovery.